So I'm joined this week for a match preview, something a little bit different that we're going to bring to the channel. And I'm joined by Cods Vlogs. Ben, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me on.
hmm
Looking forward to discussing the game at the weekend.
Yes. Well, as we were just chatting just a second ago before we hit record about the last time that we played you. Going on to FootMob, the website that I use, which there are others out there. You beat us 4-2, which I'm not going to lie, I forgot about. And when I watched the highlights back, really wish I didn't do that because it was very painful to watch. Since that game on the 27th of September, how has Fleetwood's season gone?
Well, I think that game described both teams' seasons, if I'm honest with you. I think Fleetwood, let's be honest about it, the first half I thought were not very good at all. I thought they lacked energy. I thought they lacked a spirit and they had no identity. I thought Colchester were excellent in what they did. The style of football was there to be seen. They got balls forward quickly. The front man very quickly and efficiently. And when I think a goal up, it was 1-1, it was 2-1. It could have easily been 3 or 4. And I think at that stage of the season, Colchester were drawing a lot of games 1-1 or not winning games. And you could see why they weren't losing them, but you could see also why they weren't winning games. And I think Danny Cowley's teams go through patches wherever he's been, where they just draw too many games, especially 1-1. But you could see a good side there that is probably going to go on a winning run. Fleetwood came out second half a lot better, scored 3 second half goals to go from 2-1 down to 4-2 up and looked better, but it almost felt like that's the paper over the cracks again. And there's been a number of performances, especially at home this year. I think there's probably been 4 or 5 that I'll mention that Fleetwood have picked up either 3 points or a point where they probably not deserved to. So, yeah, it was one of the better games this year from a Fleetwood point of view because obviously they won it. But overall, it kind of just sums up Fleetwood's season. Not great, but won. And now they're kind of not still being at the same level, but losing. And I always felt this period of form was always going to happen.
Yeah, like you say, obviously it's unfortunate that looking at the form for you guys, looking at your last 5 games, a 0-0 draw against Fleetwood was your 5th game ago, and then it's a 1-0 loss to Grimsby, 1-0 loss in, I believe that would have been the cup, obviously to Port Vale, but then a 3-1 loss to Doncaster again, probably in the cup, and then a 2-1 loss to Cambridge. What is it that's not quite going right? Is it maybe managerial tactics? Is it star players out injured? What's not quite going right for Fleetwood at the moment?
A bit of everything, if I'm honest with you. I think performances have been the same all year. I don't think they've been great, and at times I've yet to see an identity, if I'm honest with you, and that's a worry. And I think with Cowley, you always know what you're going to get, and I think that you know what you're trying to do. I don't know what we're trying to do, and I haven't all season a little bit. It feels better when Fleetwood have gone off instincts. So maybe where Fleetwood would just they'd go a goal down but find a point and show some spirit. I'm a big believer that can't always last forever.
hmm
And I'm a big believer eventually you'll have one they'll have one shot, you'll have one shot, you'll lose 1-0. And by proportions, your chances will stop going in. The ones against you probably won't. So I think it's that. Injuries are massive. Just to go through it, David Harrington, the second choice keeper, is good enough to be a first choice, has gone to Bolton. Denver Hume was with the star signing in the summer, has had a bleed on the brain, I believe, which is could end his footballing career, never mind it's a short-term injury. We've been without him for some time. Finley Potter, who's one of the most promising centre-halves in the division, in my opinion, has got another 2.5 minute bump, 2.5 a month bump, that is, sorry, after just coming back for a month. James Bolton, probably the mainstay centre-half of the team, has been out for the last 6 to 8 weeks. I would go as far to say. I think he actually came off in the Colchester game. I think he got injured and conceded the penalty on the day as well. So he's been in and out the team injury. Sean Rooney, the right centre half, has just come back from an injury. Lewis McCann, who plays left wing back or up front, is now gone out injured. Ryan Graydon's been sold to Salford, who was your star striker. Your next choice striker, Ronan Coughlin, is out injured. James Norwood's out injured. Lewis McCann, who can play up there. So you're left with three strikers. Who's a 37-year-old Ched Evans, Owen Devonport, who's just been recalled from Halifax after scoring 2 in 17, and Will Davis, who has scored 3 in his last 28. So you've got not a great selection of strikers after having a great selection of strikers. You've got key players out injured, a bit tactically, but also I think that Fleetwood winning fine margin football games or drawing fine margin football games one every two, and they were just doing enough to regularly get, say, around 1.5 points a game. Now those fine margins are probably now evening themselves out a little bit. So Fleetwood are probably, in my opinion, where they should be in the table, and that's 15th.
Yeah. I've got the lineup. I believe this is from your last game, home to Cambridge. You've got Lynch in goal, a back three of Hughes, Holgate, and Rooney, and then Ennis, Virtue, Bonds, and Josh Powell, who obviously coach the fans know about, which we'll get into in a minute, across the midfield, and then Helm sitting in behind Davis and Evans. If you was to field the same 11, are we going to be expecting a Fleetwood Town side that are going to try and sit back and hit on the counter? You've mentioned that Ched Evans he's a proven goal scorer, but as you mentioned, he's getting on a bit now. You've got Davies that's not sort of scoring the goals he was expecting to. You've got Davenport on the bench that you said scored 2 in 17 in the National League. Our coach, they're going to be expecting Fleetwood to sit in like a back five and try and get on the counter, or do you play in a sort of different style where it's just the fact that the two strikers just are getting unlucky?
I think it is. They'll sit in. They'll basically wave a pressure, and then they'll try and get the balls out wide. And literally, it'll be give it to Ethan Ennis and cross, give it to Ethan Ennis and cross, rinse and repeat. And sometimes that's great, but you need a bit of a plan B. You need something else. And to be fair to Pete Wilder, went 4-2-3-1 on Saturday for the last kind of 20 minutes of the game, and he looked a little bit better with that. It looked a little bit something different. So I think, yeah, like you say, we'll stick in. It's going to be an R because I think that you've probably got one of the best front fours in the division. I think, your Tavides, your Paynes, your Lisbys, and your Mbicks, who's Mbick caused Fleetwood nothing but trouble, early in the season. And let's be honest, this is first proper season in men's football. Tavides obviously maybe not got the goals of last year, but he's had his injury troubles. Jack Payne's getting on, but I think that I'd go as far as to say I think every season he's playing against Fleetwood, I'm like, he's an absolute pain.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun, but because he's just little, efficient, on the half turn, busy, and I worry about that on Saturday because the way that Fleetwood are at the moment, my issue is you'll look at the results and you're thinking fine margins.
Yeah.
The stats look fine margins, but if you watch the games, I'm a big believer of Fleetwood are conceding 5 or 6 big chances a game.
Yeah.
A bit like we're going back when we played in late September. Colchester had 6 or 7 big chances. That if you just score 3 or 4 of those, Colchester win the game. And Fleetwood don't score 4 in that game. So, yeah, that's what I'm worried about. I think that you've got a very efficient side, and I think that you're a very different kettle of fish that can play back 4, can go to a 5 if you want to as well. But yeah, I think it's going to be an attack against defence game on Saturday.
Yeah. So obviously you mentioned obviously when we were going through like sort of your strikers, a couple of them in Seoul, obviously Denver Hume, bringing him in, and then obviously the unfortunate bleed on the brain that he's got. Hopefully speedy recovery and he's back soon, and hopefully it's not a career ender for him, but it does sound, I remember reading about it, it sounds pretty nasty. You mentioned like obviously get the ball to Ennis. Is that sort of the player that we're gonna sort of try and look out for? Is he like the standout player at the moment for Fleetwood?
There's no one else. There's no one else in that team that you look up and you think that's the man. And you look at his stats: 2 goals, 2 assists, but in all comps, 5 goals, 3 assists. And he's one of those that he's creating opportunity. He's always on the half turn. He's always putting a good ball in the box. He's always creating a good opportunity. Ched Evans is one that, to be fair to him for his age, is the ultimate pro. He turned 37 at the end of December. He is the absolute ultimate pro, but say, for example, he would have played 90 on Saturday, I would go as far to say he's probably done a bit of gym work today. He probably won't join in training until Thursday because you just got to look after, especially, I'd say even more so right now. I think Fleetwood are an injury away from Ched Evans to potentially being in the bottom two race. I know that they're a significant amount of points above the drop, but I just worry that if Fleetwood don't bring someone in, an injury to Chet Evans, all of a sudden things don't look as rosy. Davis started the season well, so I think Bonds and Virtue are your typical lower league midfielders. Mark Helm doesn't get enough goals. He scored one this season against you guys. So realistically, I'm struggling to name a threat. And I go for your squad and thinking threat, 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 threat. And then even your defensive midfielders, I'm thinking, and your fullbacks. And then I'm getting to your substitute bench and I'm thinking, every player here is going to cause
Yeah.
Fleetwood a little bit of a problem. You know, the ball boys might cause Fleetwood a bit of a problem at this rate, the way Fleetwood are going on.
I think that'll be the first time ever that a fan has said that they're even worried about the ball boys. That's
Ah,
awesome. So obviously we're in the January transfer window. Colchester, the only bit of transfer news really that's come out. Obviously, we've had the rumours of Lisby. We've had an offer from a Belgium side potentially rejected, and obviously the news that came out today or yesterday that Mbic looks like maybe going to Brighton for a big move. Fingers crossed he comes back to us on loan. What is it that Fleetwood need in this window? So you've brought in former Colchester United player Josh Powell, who looks like could be a very promising player. But again, just before we hit record, we were chatting about him. He just needs someone just to sort of guide him through the game a little bit. Still a young, raw player, but it's definitely got the potential. What else is it that Fleetwood need? Obviously, by the sounds of it, it sounds like you need a goal scorer.
new bodies, a magic worker to get these players back from injury because you've put a fully fit Fleetwood squad together and it's not looking too bad. It's okay to finish mid-table, top 12 maybe. You get your Coughlin's, your Norwich back, Bolton back. Denver Hume's long-term injury. So realistically, it's probably you're looking at middle of March before they're all back, pretty much. They need a striker. That I don't think there's any room in the budget to bring anyone in. They need a centre forward desperately, because ultimately they've got no goals in that team. And yeah, it'll probably be a young striker on loan from a Premier League side because there's no funds to go in. Ryan Graham was sold for £500,000. All that's going back into the running of the football club. And yeah, I don't think the football club see it as a financial decision to put money into the club this year when ultimately they're 15 and 8 points off the playoffs.
Yeah, when you said it was James Norwood, I did just have a quick look, and I was thinking, is it the like Tranmere James Norwood? I don't think you can get much more old school League Two strikers than
No,
Ched Evans and James Norwood. I think if you could get both of them to find their form from about 3 or 4 years ago, I think you'd be laughing.
absolutely.
Just finally, before I let you go, the dreaded thing that everyone always loves doing, prediction for the weekend. What are you thinking?
When normally I'm so negative about Fleetwood, they do something. Go
So I want
on.
you, I want you to be positive then.
Yeah, exactly. They do things to me that, you know, something. I've just logged them off for the last 20 minutes. 2-0 Fleetwood. And that's more heart than head. My
Yeah.
head's telling me 2-1 to you. My heart's telling me 2-0 Fleetwood.
Awesome. I'll be honest, I'm gonna be a little bit biased. I think maybe a 3-0 win. I think
Mm,
it could be hopefully that we'll
again,
bring on the form from the Bristol Rovers game. Awara Edwards, obviously with his fantastic goal. I think just keep that going. Obviously, we didn't have many games over Christmas because they were all postponed. So let's get back into it, and I'm thinking maybe a 3-0 win. Where obviously I've mentioned at the start, Cod's vlogs. Where can all the Col U fans find you?
yeah, on YouTube, Ben Knapman EFL/Cos Vlog. Same on TikTok. Make League One and League Two content. So, yeah, thank you for having me on.
No worries at all. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining me and enjoy the rest of your night.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you.